This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
Hey everyone, welcome to Be the Change. My name is Lily Mott, and today's episode is about how change comes when you try new things and take risks. Interviewing my guest for this episode felt like a major small world moment, but also a bit of a full circle moment. Jack Walters is the CEO and co-founder of HapWare, which is a company providing people with disabilities more information in social interactions using AI and haptic technology through wearables. And coincidentally, Jack also grew up in a neighboring town from me in Colorado, so we have lots of mutual friends and connections from growing up. So shout out to Evergreen and Golden. But it was so great to talk with Jack and to learn more about his work. So without further ado, let's get started with this episode featuring Jack Walters.
My name's Jack, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of HapWare. At HapWare, we build wearable technology for people who are blind or neurodiverse, and we empower them by giving them access to all the different nonverbal and social cues. So that's things like gestures, body language, facial expression, sentiment. The over 90% of communication that is nonverbal, we communicate all that using AI and haptic technology. So what it is do I have one next to me? I do. So it pairs with smart glasses. We partner with the Meta Ray-Bans, but it can be like any sort of smart glasses. And then it connects to a wristband, which is right here. And it plays different haptics or sense of touch vibrations depending on the nonverbal or social cue, like the ones I listed, that are around you or in front of you.
That is so cool. That's amazing. And I know that I just told you this before we started recording, but I'm super excited to learn because I don't know anything about any of this stuff. So I think this is going to be a very fresh topic for me. Can you tell me about what got you interested in getting started with this? You said that you went to grad school. You've studied for this. Can you just tell me about that journey for you and what got you started?
Little background, like I got my undergrad degree in mechanical engineering, master's in engineering management. And it was while I was in school at Colorado School of Mines that I met who would be my co-founder. And his name's Brian, and he's actually 100% blind. So we were working on this project. He was sponsoring this research project, and it was about how to use haptics, like the things that are in your phone when you text, or a game controller, or even like just someone like patting you on the back. That's technically a haptic. And he sponsored this project. I was on it, and we're learning about haptics and how it can be used. And then I'm also, interacting with Brian on almost like a day-to-day basis, and he is blind. And from learning, like from talking to him and from hearing about his experience and just his sort of mentorship and leadership of, giving us feedback on haptics and how to kind of conduct research, we decided that, okay, if we're going to build something for the next year with the government's money, we might as well do like something cool and something that helps people. So it started the path of just like talking to people with disabilities. So that's where we wanted to focus. So it wasn't just folks that were blind like Brian. We were also talking to people that were on the autism spectrum, people that were deaf, people with intellectual development disabilities, IDD. And we kept hearing this common theme that communication is super vital. And for some of these communities, it's inaccessible because it is visual, like hence the people who are blind. If someone's waving or smiling or so on and so forth, it's inaccessible because it is visual. And Brian would heavily reinforce that. And then on the neurodiverse side, autism, these cues, social cues, are just really, really hard. It's just a barrier to understand other people. So with those kind of insights in mind, and then how we were learning about how haptics can provide an unobtrusive way to communicate this information, we decided to say, okay, let's see if we can use this technology to essentially communicate this information that's really, really important in a better way than it's being communicated now, which is like third-party support, audio, text. And that was kind of like, our main assumption. So we just went out, like we made like our first prototype was like a whole bionic arm. I'm not even kidding. It looked crazy. And then we proved that, we could convert and communicate like simple emotions like happy and sad to the sense of haptics in real time. And people understood it with really, really minimal training. So that was like a little over a year ago. And then January of last year decided to kind of like spin it off from like the project, school-based thing, and then stand up a company. And then, since then we've beta tested with some of the largest disability organizations in the world: National Federation of the Blind, Helen Keller National Center, Developmental Disabilities Resource Center, government agencies, nonprofits that are on other sides of the world. Have gotten some investment. And then now, we just got back from the largest consumer showcase in the world, the largest consumer electronics showcase in the world, and won a bunch of awards for health tech and helping empowering the IDD and disability community. So this is a crazy last 12 months.
That's so cool. That sounds like it. I think that's an amazing background. And what does kind of the day-to-day look like for you? I know it's probably very different. I'm sure every day is a little bit different depending
Yeah.
on what you're working on. Tell me about that.
Yeah. The thing that we always try to keep at the center of what we're doing is, we have a team of 6 people. It's majority engineers, and it's just like never losing the momentum, always trying to hit new milestones that push the business forward. So whatever that may be in the month to months that you're doing, like when we first started in last February, March, it was, we just need to get this in the hands of 10 people and then pay for it and see how it works. But now, the milestones have shifted, and it's like, okay, well, we got it in the hands of 10 people. Now let's get into the hands of the most influential organizations in the world. But also, we need to go and get funding to do this. And we need to go invest in something that is going to be like a world-class user experience, not just like a scrappy prototype. So, we always try to just, like, my goal is to just like always keep the team inspired to kind of like the next milestone. And that can depend heavily on like where you're at in the company. So for us, we're like the craziest, coolest part of like our company's life cycle, because we're about to launch. We're getting featured on like Engadget, like CNET, like all these really really cool places, and we get to go and pitch in front of people like Stevie Wonder came by and was like using our technology, like the most famous blind person ever. So day to day, like, just really depends on like what that current milestone that we need to hit are. And then I will say, like, in our space, the disability tech space or accessibility tech space, the thing that ensures that you're on the right path, at least in my opinion, is including those end users as part of your team and as part of the development process. So, we're a disability founded company. Like Brian, who I mentioned, our CTO is blind, but we also, have like a duty to serve people that are neurodiverse and autistic. So how do we include them, on the day to day or week to week when we're pushing out new development is just as important. So it does go hand in hand. As like, you have to keep momentum from a business perspective, that everyone's motivated to keep working and do things, and other organizations want to hit you up and work with you because they see it. But also like staying true to like, okay, we need to have a lot of good engineering milestones and proof that we're helping people. And that's usually just like the nitty gritty. Like that's just like doing the things that are hard, the things that don't scale, talking to a bunch of people and actually including them, giving them the technology and saying, where does this thing suck? And please be critical. So kind of two-pronged approach. And I'd say that like my number one priority is just like keeping the team inspired and setting direction and making sure we have the right people in the right places and the people doing the right things, and that I can, support on, all the above when it's needed.
That's awesome. And Stevie Wonder, that's incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh, so some of those bigger moments, I'm sure, have been mind-boggling, and I'm sure that those were moments that just made you kind of check what you were doing, and I think that'd just be incredible. But can you tell me about some of the maybe those smaller moments? Like you said, they're smaller milestones, but can you tell me about some of those smaller wins that maybe kind of keep you going that we might not see from the public's eyes, but you've gotten to celebrate with your team? Are there some of those that stick out to
Yeah.
you, even as you were getting started?
Yeah, 100%. So every like public facing milestone, like success at CES or like getting investment from like a Techstars or whatever it was, that only happens from like probably 100 things that didn't work before that. And I always say like that to like my fellow entrepreneur friends, or like I kind of like help mentor some of the students at Colorado School of Mines and like the entrepreneurship club, and I just say like expect nothing to work the first time, like absolutely never to work the first time. I don't think that's ever happened to us. I don't think like we were like, okay, we're gonna try this initiative and it's gonna work. It usually doesn't. You usually have to like pivot, learn something, and then try it again. So I remember one time when we were like just pivoting away from well, it wasn't even a pivot, but like we were trying to get everything wireless. So like when we first made our first prototype when we were students, we had this like wire that went from like our wristband to our glasses, and is clunky. User experience wasn't that good. A lot of our users said like there's a wire, like it feels like I'm tethered to something. And we tried for it took a long time to get that to be wireless, like weeks and weeks and months to get it reliable and working. And when we did, I remember like it working and then putting it on and then like using it like as I was a user, and I'm like, holy cow, this is way better. And that was just like the accumulation of just like it not working for such a long time. But like that one work, like this having like that small improvement, just removing a wire, um, improved our user experience by like tenfold. And I'd say that like in the entrepreneurial journey, there are like people ask like, okay, what do you think your superpowers? Like, what are you good at? Like, as the co-founder, are you good at sales? Are you good at marketing? Are you good at technical? Are you good at operations? And like when you're an early stage company, you obviously have to do a little bit of everything. But the most important thing for us is just like staying consistent and just trying to make like progress, a little bit of progress every single day. Like you always hear this kind of thing in the startup world, like, oh, I worked 18 hours today for like 5 days straight. And it's like, you can do that. But like, it's what's almost better is if you just worked 7 days a week and you just stayed consistent, but you just showed up and like you just decided to make progress. And I think that is kind of like the lesson for our team is just like, don't expect anything to happen overnight. It never does. But like, if we just keep making progress and staying consistent, like we're going to do good things for, the like our mission and our users.
That's amazing. And I think this tees me up really well to the next question, but how do you manage to strike that balance between working and progress and, focusing on all of these small milestones and trying to move quickly as fast as you can, and also looking after your mental health and doing things that are fun and, and making sure that your team strikes that balance too? How does that work for you? Do you have any advice that you would want to share with people who might be also starting out on entrepreneurial journeys? Yeah, what does that look like for you?
I'll say this. So like, it kind of alludes me to like the work-life balance sort of thing. And while I think I'm not going to give advice on work-life balance, but I will give advice on the other side, which I think kind of goes hand in hand. And that is, I learned this like as a student athlete firsthand is not tying your self-worth to your business. So like as founders, as CEOs or whatever, like is just like whatever your role is, you feel the highs and lows like very intensely because it is part of your life now. So like when you win and things are going well, oh man, like things are like you feel it. But when shit hits the fan and things aren't going well, you also feel that low. So this was something that, I've learned and like knew like intensely about myself, like as an athlete, because when you play good, you feel good. When you play like shit, you feel like shit. So the way that I translate that is just like, and what I recommend for people is like just trying to keep like a poise. Don't feel the highs too high. Don't feel the lows too lows, and just like trying to stay standard and like whatever happens, because no one wants the volatile leader. Like the one that's like, oh, things are great, like da 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 da, and then you kind of like have this overinflated, optimism, which can also be super dangerous. Like it's actually okay to like tell your team and your people like, oh, things are not as good as they are, like as they seem. But I mean, you do have to level set expectations. So that's hard to do. I like it's different for every single person, but separating the two, like separating your self worth and your business, are like really really important if you want to maintain like and you don't want to get burned out.
That's such good advice. And I do think that even keel, trying to kind of stay on the narrow path instead of the roller coaster, that's something that I'm also working on. So that was helpful for me. I appreciate that. My next question is, what inspires you to do this work? I'm sure some of it has to do with your team, and I'm sure some of it is, end users, and I'm putting words in your mouth, which I don't want to do. But can you tell me about, what motivates you when you're going through maybe some of those lows?
Yeah, I mean, to do like to be like to like kind of go all in on entrepreneurship, you have to like either be like obsessed with your mission or obsessed with the problem. You can't like your external driver can't be status, it can't be money, it can't be a lot of these other things, because when you do hit those lows, the drive and the consistency and everything that matters is just going to fray away. So for me, it's always been, and I hadn't struggled with like the other like things. It's always been like the mission and the problem. Um, I've always thought the problem that we're trying to solve is so interesting. Like it's just like almost like in a broad sense, it's like communication as a problem. Like, well, we have a more narrow focus, but like as an overall what we're trying to do, I think it's a super interesting problem. And then just like our mission and vision for the future, like trying to make miscommunication a thing of the past, like being able to have instant understanding of the people's emotions and intent without needing words to be spoken, right? So I think that vision for the future and then just the problem we're solving is what always makes it easy to come back to. And then you do have those little small moments when you're doing a demo with a user and they tell you something like, holy shit, this is amazing, this is restored communication, or like this is like I could see my grandchild's smiling face, right? And that's like the reinforcement that you can share and keeps momentum going as well. But what's really going to keep like folks driving is like it has to be like the problem and like in the passion for the mission.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's wonderful. My last question is, lots of people might want to make change, might have, these problems or these missions in mind, but might not know how to get started with that work. What advice would you want to share with those people who might be listening?
It's a good question. Starting is hard, but also so is the accountability of like what you want to do. So I always think like the best way to try things is just by trying a lot of different things, especially if you're in college and you have like this like I think like Gen Zers and people kind of in our age group kind of have this like a inclination to like doing more than just having a job like this at a higher rate. People feel like they have a larger responsibility. So test and try different things that you like. I think like taking risks is part of that. Like you have to love taking risks. And then the thing that I kind of give to like some of the other students, like the advice I give to some of the other students is when you do find something you like, and this is an advantage that, younger folks can have, is keep everyone in the loop of what you're doing. And like what I mean by that is like if you're like you're a senior and you're like, okay, I'm gonna help people, I'm gonna help prevent wildfires. Just give me an example. And you go out and you interview a bunch of firefighters, chiefs of polices, and maybe people that sell water to the government, whatever it may be. You meet all these different people because you're trying to find out where the problem is, and you're doing this thing, and you're actually going out and talking to folks. Keep all of them in the loop, whether it's through like a monthly newsletter, emailing them personally, because what I found is really helpful is people want to kind of support especially younger people, with their goals. So like if you see this like passionate, fired up, like 21-year-old that's like wants to do something new and different, you're going to have way more people like willing to like give you support and advice, but you have to like keep them in the loop. Like they have to know what you're doing. So I'd say like just like really count on like what you kind of have like going for you, like in like your passion and your drive. And like if you can like infect other people with that, when you have no money and no like a credibility to stand on, and you just have like drive and you have a cool story, the likelihood of people wanting to join along or like give you support is way higher than if you didn't. So that's my advice. Start and keep people in the loop.
It was so great to talk with Jack and to learn about his work, because I think the work that he's doing is so different from so many of my other guests on this podcast, and he's making change in a completely different way. I really love that last advice that Jack shared about testing out new things and figuring out what you like to do and what you really want to do with your life. Especially when you're young, you have the flexibility to try new things and take risks that you might not be able to take later in life. So take this opportunity to explore. If you need that push to try out new things, I hope that this podcast episode is that push for you, because change comes when you try new things and take risks. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and you can find Jack on Instagram and LinkedIn, and I included those links in the description of this episode. If you would like to learn more about HapWare, I included some links to learn more in the description as well. If you want to talk about anything I mentioned, please reach out to me by email at lily@bethechangepodcast.org or on Instagram at Be The Change Media Network. I'm working on expanding Be The Change Media Network, which means bringing you more inspiring stories from amazing guests. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you could leave the podcast a rating and a comment, because it will help these stories to reach, educate, and inspire more people. And I would also love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Tune in for my next episode, but until then, be the change you wish to see in the world. Bye, guys.